The only thing that would make this segment better is if it happened on a day that started with an S. Like we did weekends. Sam's putting his shoes on as we talk. Because we can do like Saturdays or Sundays with Sam. I like the alliteration there, but we'll settle for Thursdays with Sam as he joins us, Sam Amick, each and every Thursday at 8 a.m. a special NBA conversation. Senior NBA writer with The Athletic, and as I just spoke to him off air, he's on his way out the door, trying to get to shoot around. So we get to, as always, visualize for those of you watching on YouTube, Sam Amick walking to Target Center. Good morning, Sam.
Good morning, Dave. Now this week we're going for the full Monty, although that was about 10 minutes ago. We're tying shoes. We're getting out of the
careful there.
room. Yeah, exactly.
Careful on the live view. I don't know what that would do to ratings, but I think we'd get a few gifs and memes out of it. How is lovely Minneapolis?
It's good. Although, was that not? I wasn't convincing.
It's good. It's fine.
Well, I say that because I'm now taking stock and making sure I have everything I need. Room key, check.
Oh,
all right, we're good.
Are you going to wear that?
I'm just going to shoot around, man.
Okay.
Jeez.
No, that's just one. I always say that to my wife. It's one of my favorite. You should try it sometime with them.
I'm sure that would go well.
It always goes when we're on our way somewhere. I'm like, oh, you're wearing that, and then I'll just pause and wait for the look, and then it's never funny to her, Sam.
So yes, Minnie's good. But admittedly, again, I always try to qualify stuff, first world problems. But this is the part of the playoff series where, it's nice when you have a few days, if you're going to be traveling, to have a few days in the city. And now all of a sudden, it's the kind of fast and furious portion where, get in on the later side yesterday and then game tonight. And then you're waiting to see, am I booking a flight home? Am we going back to Dallas? So a little more hectic, but all is well. The weather's beautiful, so no complaints there.
Wait, so they're bitching about nothing? Weren't they saying it was snowing or something there on Inside the NBA? Is that fake news?
I hate that expression, but I will call that inaccurate news.
Inaccurate news. Alternative fact.
You're now helping me get more steps in. I would normally take the elevator. Now we're going down the stairs from the floor, buddy.
Look at you.
Keeping me healthy.
Keep your svelte figure. You got to be on your toes, dude. Look at you.
Trying.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the weather's nice. Dallas. This is not the Weather Channel, but Dallas was kind of crazy. There were tornado warnings and trees pulled out of the ground, and I think some casualties in the area, sadly. So a little bit better out here.
I just heard it was super hot and humid there. I didn't know about any of that stuff. Hey, you know what? We should just spend the rest of the show talking about different NBA cities and their weather. That'd go over well.
All right, let's get to it, my friend.
Well, yeah. So Ty Lue, been talking a lot about this. His extension right around 14 mil. And I wanted, as I said before you came on, and I'll say it with you on, I want to have this conversation with obviously not being disrespectful to Ty Lue, who I think is an excellent coach and he deserves every penny. But when you look at the numbers with Mike Brown has, over the last 2 years since he took over the Kings, he has one less regular season win. He has one more postseason win if you count the play-in, 3-3 if you count playoffs. The Clippers have $50 million more in payroll. So my goal here is, my point, Sam, is not in any way to disrespect Ty Lue. It's more to the point of, what are we doing with Mike Brown?
Well, I mean, the obvious, and I'll try to play with the mic so it's not too loud, but the obvious difference is that Ty has a championship on his resume. So I know it didn't happen with the Clippers, but when you win a title, that puts you in a different category. So that matters. So, if only Mike Brown's Cavaliers had found a way to beat San Antonio all those years ago, then, then he would be in that category, but he is not. Beyond that, you have an owner in Steve Ballmer who is far and away the richest in the NBA. It's not even close for the Clippers. That comes to mind. The way they run their organization
it's funny. It has not yielded the results that they hope for. They have not won a title and really haven't been all that close. But whether it's front office, coaches, they're widely known to spend on a level that others do not. They have several front office executives, for example, who, roughly speaking, make, like money that qualifies as GM money elsewhere. So, it's a little bit different with the Clippers. For me, with Mike, I think that during this entire situation, and I keep forgetting the numbers, but the Jamal Mosley extension was the one that I think was guiding the conversation even more, where it seemed like on Mike's side, it was a pretty strong stance that, Mike has accomplished a lot more than Jamal Mosley. And in fact, with somebody who kind of helped him come up a little bit. It's not great. It's what Anthony Slater and I wrote about a few months ago, which is if they mess around and don't get this done, it could be a distraction. And so far, it's starting to kind of line up that way.
And Sam, this whole thing is weird because just following the timeline, what I had heard at least was that they both were going to get something done. It was a when, not an if. It's a negotiation, so and that's what I came out and said. And then I think it was the next day, Woj came out and a couple other people saying everything from talks are tabled to they broke down. And I understand it's a negotiation. I just look at it logically, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense. The Kings are taking a major PR hit here, both here locally and nationally. It doesn't look good. Malik Monk's a free agent. They want to re-sign him. This can't help. Stability, et cetera, et cetera. I just can't help but think there's more to this story, and I'm not going to speculate, but just that either they're not as far apart as being reported, or there's something else happening, because when you just look at it objectively, it does, at least to me as a fan, not a journalist now, as a fan, it just doesn't make a lot of sense that they're not getting it done.
I hear you, and I will give you a hard time. I always love when, you got both hats on, buddy. You got the fan hat and the journalist hat on, because you are talking to people, and so, no, don't try to downplay that part. You know what's going on. I will say, again, without knowing exactly where the number is, it's a discussion, meaning I talked to a team the other day that had recently extended its own coach. And it was kind of like this discussion about how, it's a lot easier to extend a guy when your team is still alive. You know what I mean? And with the Kings, there is part of me that says it lined up really poorly in terms of all the excitement and the fun and the success of last season when they finally break the playoff drought. Ideally, if you're Mike Brown, you get an extension right then.
Right. And
this happens a lot with coaches. Frank Vogel wanted an extension. Sorry about the noise, buddy. I hope that's not bad. Of course, there's some banging. Frank Vogel didn't get an extension after winning a championship in the bubble with the Lakers. And a year later, because you don't meet expectations, you're out. And that's what's going on here. Is I think, understandably, Mike probably is looking at it like, you need to reward me for what we did last year and the direction this thing is going. But the human factor comes into play, I think, where if you're Vivek Ranadive, you feel the sting of not making the playoff this time, and maybe that's your focus. On top of the fact that the coaching economy has changed so much that if you're somebody like Vivek, who is not known to be on the higher end as far as how you pay staff, then I'm sure you have some sticker shock as well.
And I think the pushback there is, and I mean, you and I aren't sitting here negotiating, but Rick Adelman, 8 out of 8 years, 500 or more. The only other 2 times it's happened, 2 out of 2 years, Mike Brown, 500 or better, with a lower payroll, as we talked about, breaking a 16-year playoff drought, only 2 games off of where they were last year, and they had other factors going in as well. I don't think Mike had a perfect year, but when Vivek has done such a good job, we were just talking about the same in the last segment, such a good job of kind of getting over the Ishbias, if you will, the new owner disease, and kind of learning from the mistakes. It seems Monty McNair and Mike Brown have seemingly brought a stability to the culture here. And then the question I'll lead into with you, which you can provide a little more background on than me, is Mike Brown is represented by Warren Legary, and I don't claim to know a ton about him other than he tends to represent a lot of coaches, and he's a fairly he's a powerful dude who is a pretty hard-nosed negotiator from everything I've heard. Now, I'm not saying that factors or anything, but I would have to think at some point Warren faxed over, well, nobody faxes anymore, emailed over a copy of the headline with Ty Lue. It's like, look, if this dude's getting 14 mil, you're telling me my guy can't get 9 to 11? I find myself wondering if Mike Brown's price didn't go up yesterday.
No, that's fair. And from a negotiating standpoint, you're 100% correct. That is what Warren will do. Now, as kind of a fascinating aside, he also represents Wes Wilcox, the Kings assistant GM, who's got a lot of influence with the organization. So Warren is pretty prolific in terms of representation around the league, coaches and front office. The Kings, Vivek's dealt with him countless times before. He had Dave Yeager. I'm leaving somebody else out, but they
George
know
Karl.
Warren. Yeah, he had George. Yeah, and that was like, that part always makes me laugh. You run into these back-to-back things where once Warren knew that one guy was toast and there was no coming back, then he's got another candidate waiting for you.
Right.
But he's good at his job. So I don't know. We'll see where it goes. Yeah, I think the Ty Lue contract, of course, it becomes part of the conversation. Like Mike Brown and Warren don't care that Steve Ballmer's got more money than God. That's not how this works. They just set the market again. And on top of that, you got Greg Popovich. I know that's Pop, 6 titles, legend. But, his number, I think, is around 15.
Yeah.
I agree. The waiting game might ultimately cost them extra money.
Well, and last thing I'll say on that, and I might be reading way too much into it, I haven't gotten specific on this. You'll know what I'm talking about, though, is that in negotiations, if the negotiating team for the Sacramento Kings had a closer, like in baseball, as I understand it, that closer just got back in town. So it does kind of make me wonder if maybe things don't pick up here fairly quickly and get done. You know what I mean?
I do, but I also had somebody say hello, so I got distracted. Who's the closer in this scenario?
I'm saying if the Sacramento Kings negotiation team had a closer, I believe that closer just got back in town a couple days ago. And so I might be overthinking it, but maybe things pick back up here real quick when the relief pitcher gets on the mound. You know what I mean?
Are you speaking in code, or are we talking about?
I'm speaking in code. I'm speaking in.
I just want to know who the hell you're talking about. Is that Monty? Is that
No. Come on. You know who I'm talking about. It's not Monty.
On which side of the table?
You got the right on the King side of the table. You got the right first letter.
Got you. Yes. Wow. Way to go, buddy. All
yeah.
right.
Thanks, Sam.
Yeah.
Great job on that. All right.
Hey, can I have an A? Can I have an A? Can I have a C?
Sam Amick of The Athletic joining us right now. Sam, let's talk about the series you're about to witness. It's Game 5. Minnesota got a big win on the road. Karl Anthony Towns with some very, very clutch shots. Anthony Edwards, I think, 27 points, 29 points, obviously stepped up. I got to think Minnesota, watch out for traffic there. I got to think Minnesota is feeling pretty solid coming into tonight, and they're going to have that home court advantage back for the evening.
I don't know what you're talking about. I think they're feeling terrible, and they're going to lose by 30, and Sam's going to be able to go see his family again.
Nope. Sorry.
Obviously getting the win, getting your spirit back, being at home. We'll see. I mean, I am fascinated by the history of it all in terms of 155 teams have been down 0-3, and none of them have, of course, come back to win the whole thing. But then you get back, you get into, I think it's only 11 out of the 155 have forced a game 6. So, the idea of them winning tonight, even with those good vibes, even with being at home, is, historically speaking, relatively unlikely. And then if you get into Game 7 territory, that's 4 out of 155. And Boston, of course, did it last year and came pretty close to making history, winning the whole thing. So we'll see. I mean, Karl Anthony Towns is a huge factor here. Finally played well in that last game. I watched Luka and Kyrie. You know, they had Anthony Edwards on Luka this time instead of Jaden McDaniels, and Kyrie dealing with Jaden. I think that was a good adjustment. But if you go back and watch the tape, like Luka and Kyrie missed a lot of shots. They just missed. So if those shots fall tonight, maybe the Mavs are in trouble. It's just not a great matchup for Minnesota. And honestly, I thought it would be. I thought that, you know, their perimeter defense was going to be enough to slow these guys down. And one thing I've learned is that, you know, we continue to underestimate how big of a human being Luka Doncic is.
Yeah.
Because, like, Jaden McDaniels is so long and he's slight of frame, but he's a big guy. And Luka just had no problem going wherever he wanted, you know, with Jaden on him and bodying him around. And then even the Edwards move, Edwards been more effective. But if you watch that tape, I mean, Edwards is a big boy. And you know, and Luka has, again, more of a hard time against him, but it's not a daunting matchup. He's just a massive guy. I think sometimes we forget that part.
Sam Amick joining us, and we apologize for the audio. It's not Sam's fault. He's walking right now to shoot around, which starts in about 12 minutes, right about when we wrap up. So if you're hearing the audio kind of come in and out just at times, it's because Sam is en route. But for you YouTube viewers, you get a nice view of the.
Well, here's what you get. We're stuck. There's a truck going into the arena, so naturally, I'm being told to wait by this incredibly loud truck. So, yeah, apologies to your listeners.
So let me ask you about Boston for a second. They've got 9 days off before they take on either. Oh no, Sam, I'm sorry, I got sidetracked. Let me go back. I apologize. I want to go back to Mavs, Timberwolves. You know, we talk about you mentioned Luka. We talk about Luka, Kyrie, Cat, Ant, Rudy, blah blah blah. I mean, you'd have to go way down the list to get to Derek Lively, who has been upgraded. He missed game 3. He took that horrible knee to the head. He's now been upgraded for game 5. Are we underrating a little bit just how much he means to this Mavs team?
I mean, some people might, but you're dead on about how important he is. It's incredible. What's funny about that is you go back to last year, and I was one of the many people being critical of them. They basically tanked the last few games of the year to hold on to their pick. That ends up being Derek Lively. You know, and as a quick commentary on the macro Mavericks experience here, like, they just have had the golden touch for about 18 months. The Kyrie deal turns out better than people thought. They get Lively because they tank. They give up on Grant Williams and go get P.J. Washington and Daniel Gafford. And so, yeah, all these different moves coming together, the puzzle pieces fit. And Lively is just a fantastic young player. His plus minus, which I know everybody's always throwing on, is through the roof. I want to say best on the team.
It is the best on the team.
Yeah. So it's his, you know, rim defense is you know, threat as a rim runner. And, you know, he's massive. So they kind of hurt him in the last game, and we'll see what tonight looks like.
Now I'll ask you about Boston. 9 days off. I said it again. 9 days off. Sam, just you know, again, I know this isn't a journalism question, but in your experience, is that much time off, especially deep in the playoffs, is that more of an advantage or disadvantage, would you think?
Depends on your team scenario. If you're the Celtics and you got a guy in Kristaps Porzingis who you're trying to get back, you know, then it's great because it's all rehab. You know, even the team's medical staff, sometimes we forget, you know, if they got games, then, you know, they're having to juggle with every player in addition to the guy who's recovering. Right now, guys can probably, you know, you can allocate more resources to Porzingis, more attention. So it's ideal for Boston. And, you know, you look at a team like Dallas where Luka, despite his youth, you know, has kind of on the physical side, it's like he's 35 years old. Every game you're just wondering how healthy is he, where is he at? He's got the knee, he's got the ankle, all these different things. You know, you look out there and he's got blood coming through the knee brace, you know, like he's an old guy playing pickup. So I think all miles are tough on Luka. So the Mavs would be best served to get this thing done. And then within that, of course, you've got the discussion about, the rust factor. And you see it times when teams had a great setup, had all this rest, and they come out flat because they just kind of lost the rhythm. So it's always kind of hard to handicap.
Best guess, best instinct, Sam, is Joe Mazzulla safe regardless of outcome?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Brad Stevens, the head of the Celtics front office, obviously former coach. And even culturally before that, Danny Ainge, before he left, and, Wick Grousbeck, the Celtics owner, they have typically been one of those Spurs-type teams that has a pretty long runway for their coaches. And you see the kind of the butterfly effect of that all over the league. Sam Presti in Oklahoma City is a Spurs protege, and he's got a long leash with his coaches. So with Joe, yeah, I think he's fine. But that being said, it's funny, earlier in the year, I wrote something about how it was time to bust for the Celtics, and wrote it in a way that was like as if I was breaking news, and obviously I wasn't. And somebody from the Celtics had shot me a note. It was just like, hey, buddy, that's how it is every year with us. Like, that's who they are. So, yeah, I think Joe's fine, but there is certainly a lot of pressure to win.
And then I'll give you a best guess question again as well. I know you have big connections with the team, but you've been busy covering the playoffs. Do you agree with the group think that J.J. Redick is the large favorite to land the Lakers head coaching job?
I do, yeah, and it's a weird one. I mean, the Lakers have – this part is indisputable, and I don't know what the end result will be, even though JJ looks like the heavy front runner, but their process has been different this time. They, I don't know, they kind of signaled that they'd have all these different candidates, and then those candidates to this point haven't really gotten the shot at the job. It's been JJ Redick and James Borrego mainly actually getting FaceTime with the Lakers, and it just seems in a lot of people's minds like they are delaying the inevitable to buy time for JJ to finish his ESPN duties. And, it wouldn't surprise me at all if there was an announcement sometime in the somewhat near future. And, but you do still run into people who truly believe that Borrego has a shot at the job. One thing that I can see happening is JJ gets it, and then they immediately turn to James and ask him if he wants to be an associate head coach or something of that nature. Because they seem to be very high on James, and Anthony Davis has been tied to James. They were together briefly, I believe, in New Orleans. Obviously, that's where it would have to be, and have a good relationship. So, but the JJ thing seems very real for sure.
Well, let's finish up here, and I'm going to not necessarily push back on you, but I want to see if my alternate theory holds any water. When it comes to JJ's ESPN duties, honestly, it's far from unheard of for an analyst to be hired out as a coach while finishing their duties. It almost adds to the gravitas they have knowing they're going somewhere. I'm wondering if it could also be, Sam, that they're waiting to see what this whole free agency, Bronny, LeBron's, do they necessarily – if they hire J.J. Redick, I would imagine a big part of that is making LeBron James happy. If LeBron ends up playing for God knows who with his son, then maybe their interest in J.J. ain't that big.
Yeah, I mean, logically I hear you, but it's is it not working? Okay. Sorry, helping a guy.
Don't get arrested.
All kinds of noise right here. Yeah, it's only going to get louder here in a second. The confidence is really high in LeBron staying. So I hear you, but it's funny. Like, he's obviously chosen not to say that publicly and not to say it internally or to the Lakers. But I'm not hearing a lot of concern about that. And I do think I would be surprised if they didn't make a decision on head coach long before free agency arrived.
Okay. Well, I trust you more than anybody. Sam Amick live at Target Center, getting ready to go into shoot around in 3 minutes. So we will let you get to your real job, friend. Safe flight back to Dallas and then back to Minnesota again. And I'm not that far away. If the wife and kids need anything, Melissa and I are always here with our cars and our ability to cook. We got you covered, brother.
I appreciate you. And shout out to our friend Jody Bacon, who just texted me. She's enjoying all the background noise.
Tell her to shut up. She's texting me too. And she's sitting here texting both of us. We're in the middle of a radio show, Jody. God.
We're trying our best, Jody.
Trying our best, Jody. Jeez. All right. Take care, brother. Talk to you soon. Yeah. Bye-bye. That is Sam Amick. We'll take a break when we come back.